Let's face it, Wemby is the real deal. Too many people are actually sleeping on Steph Curry. Damian Lillard had an excellent introduction to the Milwaukee Bucks fans the other night. And the Bills, well, what the hell is wrong with the Buffalo Bills? I've got all of that. And of course, trust me, a whole lot more on the House of Takes pod. I'm Dave DeVaughn. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the big show when you have a chance. All right, enough of the groveling. To the content we go. And I wanted to start today's show off by talking about Victor Wembanyama just for a little bit. Now, he had what can best be described as a fantastic second half and overtime of the San Antonio Spurs' first win of the season over the Houston Rockets. Wemby had 21 points, 12 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. And 2 of those blocks came on the same play. Anyways, I must say that Victor was certainly very impressive in the second half as well as in overtime. Also, Greg Popovich is treating Victor Wembanyama a lot like LeBron James is being treated by the Los Angeles Lakers coaching staff. Basically, they have him on minute limits. And you can just see that with Victor, they're easing him into the speed of the National Basketball Association game. Victor has proven so far in 2 games, in my opinion, that he's absolutely going to be a superstar in the National Basketball Association if the following things happen. 1, he is going to have to continue to put on more muscle. Pull up a video of what he looked like during the Summer League and compare that to what he looks like today. It is clear that Victor has been hitting the weight room a little bit, and you can start to see the definition in the longest arms in North America. So that is one of the items that Victor Wembanyama needs to continue to work on, which also includes conditioning. I mean, he looks tired half of the game. He's running up and down the court. He looks at times as if he's dragging a bit. So his conditioning is also going to have to improve. Another thing he's going to have to work on if he's going to be a great player in the National Basketball Association is getting rid of the silly fouls. He's going to have to figure out how NBA referees actually call games. He could get away with certain things in Europe that you can't get away with in the association. Victor is going to have to figure that out sooner than later, because the last thing he wants to do is get a reputation for getting a lot of fouls and always being in foul trouble. As a rookie in the National Basketball Association, with as much pressure that is on Victor's shoulders, it is important for him to get the foul situation in check sooner than later. And I'm confident that his team will actually work with him to get that done. His shot selection is fine. I wouldn't touch it. I would just let it be. I would let him feel the game and continue to develop. His defensive presence is fantastic. You can already see a lot of the coaching that's been going on with Victor is starting to pay off. Sure, there's times where he could easily help his teammates out, and he isn't. But nobody's perfect at defense, and Victor has played really well, at least in the very short sampling that we've had so far. Look, a lot of times, National Basketball Association players who are drafted as high as Victor was drafted. I mean, he's drafted number 1. I'm talking about like the top 5 players in every NBA draft. There's always a lot of pressure on them to deliver. And you can see a bunch of the other players that were drafted high in this year's NBA draft haven't really delivered yet to date. I'm sure they will, but so far they haven't. A lot of those players on the NBA court actually look like a deer in the headlights. All right, moving on. Super quick. Wanted to just say that I think a lot of people in the NBA are continuing to disrespect Steph Curry. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people in the media as well as in the association who are continuing to sleep on Steph Curry, which just seems like an absolutely ridiculous statement. You might stop watching or listening to this podcast the second I said that. But the reality is the disrespect is heard when you hear people talking about their top 10 lists of all time. And for some way, for some reason that is unknown to mankind, Steph Curry is often off of those people's top 10 list, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know the NBA has changed a lot since we had black and white television. I know the NBA has changed a lot since I was a kid and my parents kept telling me to go to the television and change the channel, fix the antenna, turn up and turn down the volume, David, said my parents. Look, I know a lot has changed in the association over the last 30 years. Steph Curry is one of the main reasons the NBA is the way the NBA is today. Do you think Damian Lillard would get away with what Damian Lillard gets away with today, which is basically throwing up between 10 and 14 three-pointers a night? Do you think he would have gotten away with it if Steph Curry had not been as successful as Steph Curry has been? Look, I'm not sure why people continue to disrespect Steph Curry. Now, the Warrior team as it stands is going to be difficult for Steph to put the entire team on his shoulders. Let's face it, Klay Thompson isn't the Klay Thompson we knew during the Splash Brother years. Klay Thompson is a tick or two below what he used to be night in and night out. That doesn't mean we're not going to see glimpses of the old Klay Thompson. We're not going to see glimpses of the old Draymond Green. We certainly won't see glimpses of Andre Iguodala, will we? But the Golden State Warriors are certainly a team that has, if you will, a lot of holes. Look, I know that Chris Paul is there now, but you can't really count on Chris Paul to deliver 20 points a night and 8 assists. You can count on him to give you the 8 assists, but just double-digit points is probably all you should be penciling into your Golden State Warriors pregame forecast. So the Warriors at this point are clearly sitting on the shoulders of Steph Curry. And as Steph Curry goes, so do the Golden State Warriors. 41 points tonight against one of his proteges in Sacramento in De'Aaron Fox, who also had a fantastic game tonight as well. But still, you gotta sort of look at Steph Curry's performance. And if you go back and watch any of that game, the Warriors just had him blown out. And then they put in a bunch of subs. And then, the things got close in the fourth. But the Warriors just flat out destroyed him. And it was Steph Curry that did it. Don't sleep on Steph Curry. Moving on to Damian Lillard's big night last night. And I referenced Lillard last night. So we are now, I'm recording on a Friday night just at 10 p.m. PST. So we are, well over 24 hours past Damian Lillard's first game with the Milwaukee Bucks, a game in which he scored 39. Now, it's not the 39 that we should be talking about when we talk about Damian Lillard. It's the 14 in the fourth quarter that we should be talking about. Without Damian Lillard's 14 in the fourth quarter, Joel Embiid and his ragtag team of 76er players minus James Harden would easily have won that game against Giannis. Giannis looked great, but when we hit that fourth quarter mark, Lillard absolutely took over the game. Do I think that Damian Lillard and this particular group of players on this Milwaukee Bucks team could go all the way and win an NBA title this year? Sure. I give him a 1 in 4 chance of actually doing that this year if everybody stays healthy. And maybe if Chris Middleton returns to his other form of being a really solid B-plus player in the National Basketball Association. If not, they're going to have to make one more move at the trading deadline to get him over the top. There's something not right with the Boston Celtics coaching staff. There's something not right yet with the Boston Celtics, even though they won tonight. There's something just off with that Celtics team. Now, will I feel that way in 2 months? I don't know. But as of today, I think Milwaukee is right now almost head-to-head with Boston coming out of the East. I have Boston coming out of the East before the season started, but just watching Lillard take over a fourth quarter, which is exactly what he's going to do in the playoffs when he gets there. Like Damian Lillard in the playoffs with a basketball team that is fully loaded. Damian Lillard in the NBA playoffs with a basketball team that is moderately loaded is scary enough, something he really never had in Portland, at least over the last 6 years. So watch out, Boston, because Damian Lillard, if healthy, could easily sink the Boston Celtics season this year. And finally, tonight, I wanted to talk to you seriously for a second about the Buffalo Bills football team. And I laugh because they are 5-3. A 5-3 football team, you got to be feeling pretty good about yourselves. If you're the Buffalo Bills, you're thinking, we're sort of where we thought we would be. We'd like to have maybe one more win. We'd rather be 6-2 right now than 5-3. And we have, without making excuses, lost 3 of our key defenders in the first month of the season. Sean McDermott, who signed a contract extension during the offseason to remain the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, quite frankly, has done a fantastic job with the Buffalo Bills. That doesn't mean I think Sean McDermott is the right person to lead this Buffalo Bills team to a Super Bowl. I think the problem for the Buffalo Bills organization at this point might not be Sean McDermott, but it probably is their offensive coordinator, because Josh Allen just has not looked the same since Brian Daboll jumped ship to go try to resurrect the career of one Daniel Jones. And for a year, it looked like he had done it. But then the real Daniel Jones showed up this year, didn't he? He's just a terrible quarterback, isn't he? Yes, he can run the ball, but his decision-making and his ability to release the football quickly does not happen. So we have the Josh Allen enigma now, where he's got a different offensive coordinator. This is an offense that he's now been in for about a year and a half, and he's still struggling. Now, In Josh's defense, we're 7 games, 8 games in their case into the season, and he's a little bit banged up. You can't even like lift his shoulder to shake your hand at this point, or to give you a high five, I should say. So, you want to say in his defense, he's banged up at this point, but this is football. And nobody really cares so much about being banged up. We just care about performance. And he went, you ready for it? 31 for 40 for 324 yards. And the big story today in the national media was all about how bad the Buffalo Bills are playing. So you have to ask yourself, why? Well, he had 2 touchdown passes, but he had an absolutely horrific interception. And it was that absolutely horrific interception that helped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually get back into this game. Look, on any given Thursday night, on any given Sunday, and then on every given Monday night, anybody can beat anybody in the National Football League. But this was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer team that, as the game went on, it was clear as water is wet that the Buffalo Bills were the far, and I'm going to use this term, and I don't like to use it often, but the Buffalo Bills were the far superior team in that game. And yet they couldn't punch out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night. It was, if you will, absolutely unwatchable football at times. The Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense was just so difficult to watch. I can't even tell you. I mean, Baker Mayfield. Now, if you want to talk about a quarterback that had bad stats, yes, he didn't throw any picks, but 25 for 42 for 237 yards. Their top running back, Rachaad White, who I got a text from a buddy about, who said, and I quote, "When are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to realize that Rachaad White is a good running back and they should feed him the ball more?" And my response to my buddy was pretty simple. I said, when he's on another team. Rachaad White last night, 9 carries for 39 yards in that particular game versus James Cook, who had 14 carries for 67 yards. 4.8 yards, if I'm doing my math correctly, was the average. Rachaad White, a little bit less than that, 4.2, 4.3. So, feed Rachaad White the ball. Like, don't ask Baker Mayfield to throw the ball 42 times on the road on a Thursday night. Don't ask Baker Mayfield to throw the ball 42 times on Sunday night or Monday Night Football either. It is a recipe for absolute disaster. And the Buffalo Bills got exactly what they thought they were going to get from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and yet they couldn't put them away. They had a 3rd down on the 1-yard line and came away with no points. That is the problem with the Buffalo Bills organization. Yes, Josh Allen is not at that Patrick Mahomes level that we thought he was going to be at. We thought it was Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then Joe Burrow. Now we say it's Patrick Mahomes, a healthy Joe Burrow, maybe Tua if he's not getting concussed, and then Josh Allen is completely fallen off the mountain. And it is one of the main reasons the Buffalo Bills are a 5-3 football team, but maybe that 5-3 record is too good for where they actually are as an organization today. Buffalo winning ugly is one thing, but what happens is, and this happened with my Minnesota Vikings last season. The Vikings had a great year from a record perspective. We all know they won 11 games on within a single score. That was they won 11 games within a single score, 13 games on the season. And yet they looked absolutely horrific in the playoffs against the New York Giants at home. Just absolutely horrific. So it's important that teams actually figure out how to win effectively, not ugly, early in the season. And if I were to say, I really don't think at this point that the Buffalo Bills organization and the players on this team have a legitimate chance of going to the Super Bowl this year, I would say that they don't. They don't. Yes, they're going to be a playoff team. I mean, barring a bunch of other injuries around the National Football League, but I mean, coming out of the AFC, I can think of 4 other teams that are ahead of where the Buffalo Bills are right now. And in fact, I might even slide the Bills down a little further than that. Their inconsistency has been just so difficult to watch. There's a famous movie with Steve Martin. Well, there's a lot of famous movies with Steve Martin, but this one was called Parenthood. And Steve Martin's on a roller coaster going up and down, up and down. Yeah, that's what parents go through. And that is exactly the Buffalo Bills organization right now. And it's been like that for a long time, which takes me back to Sean McDermott. Look, pre-Sean McDermott as the head coach of this team, the organization was on tough times. They had a hard time making the playoffs in any sort of consistent fashion. So Sean McDermott has done a great job getting the Buffalo Bills back to respectability and putting them in the playoffs year after year after year. Absolutely love the job that Sean McDermott has done. But is he, North America, the right guy to take the Buffalo Bills organization all the way to a Super Bowl and then actually get some fancy ring at the end? All right, that is it for tonight's House of Takes pod. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please go ahead and subscribe. And of course, like this video. For the House of Takes pod, I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.